17 Haunting Facts from the Old West. Are you prepared to rethink everything you know about the Wild West? Beyond the heroic cowboys and infamous outlaws, there's a shadowy side to the Old West, filled with hardship, bloodshed, and forgotten tales. In this journey, we'll unveil 17 eerie truths that challenge the romanticized legends of the Wild West. You'll meet some of the iconic figures who roamed the frontier, witnessing their struggles and triumphs. Come along as we uncover the key events that shaped the history of the Old West and the hidden reality behind its legends and myths. But before we begin, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more historical deep dives. No, 17 risky drinks. Whiskey ruled the Wild West, but the concoctions were far from ordinary. Drinks had names like 40 Rods, Tarantula Juice, and Lightning. As exotic as they sound, these brews were dangerous, mixed with bizarre and harmful ingredients such as strychnine, turpentine, and tobacco oil. These unregulated drinks were so potent that just one shot could knock you out, but most had to take to just to stomach the first. Saloons, isolated from civilization and often short on supplies, crafted whatever they could, often resulting in harsh and hazardous drinks. Unlike today's refined beverages, Wild West whiskey was rough, unrefined, and downright dangerous. No. 16. The gunfight at the OK Corral. The infamous OK Corral shootout isn't quite what you imagine. First off, it didn't actually happen at the corral. The confrontation took place near 3rd and Fremont Streets in Tombstone, Arizona, just behind the corral. Despite its brevity lasting only about 30 seconds, this showdown has become one of the most iconic gunfights of the West. The fight involved 8 men, including the Earp brothers, Wyatt, Morgan, and Virgil, along with Doc Holliday on one side, and the Clanton and McClory brothers on the other. When the dust settled, 3 of the cowboys were dead, and 3 of the lawmen were wounded. It was a short but deadly encounter, with the Earp determined to rid Tombstone of outlaw troublemakers. No. 15 Giants with red hair. Long before European settlers, the native Paiute tribe of Nevada told tales of terrifying red-haired giants, known as the Kie. These fearsome cannibals, standing taller than any man, were said to have a taste for human flesh and roamed the deserts of the West. According to Paiute legend, their fiery hair came from a special water plant they consumed that wreaked havoc on the land until the Paiute people decided to end their reign of terror. Led by brave warriors, and using their deep knowledge of the land, the Paiute trapped the car inside a large cave, setting its entrance ablaze to ensure they could never escape. The legend of the red-haired cannibals was passed down through generations, a reminder of the strength and resilience of the Paiute people. No. 14 Hidden treasures. You may have heard of the Red Ghost Camel legend, but there are countless other stories of hidden wealth in the Old West. During the gold and silver rushes, eager settlers flooded westward, hoping to strike it rich. Most left empty-handed, but those who found fortune inspired tales of lost mines and hidden treasures. Whispers of miners hiding their riches to keep them safe from thieves have persisted for generations, with many believing that fortunes still lie buried beneath the western desert. Even today, treasure hunters continue their quest, hoping to uncover the elusive wealth left behind. No. 13 The truth about cowboy hats. Think of a cowboy, and you'll likely picture him wearing a big 10-gallon hat. Surprisingly, this wasn't the hat of choice. In the 1800s, the famous wide-brimmed hat became popular thanks to Hollywood in the 1920s. In reality, most cowboys wore a more practical design. The Boss of the Plains, created by John Stetson, made from durable, waterproof nutria fur. The hat featured a smaller brim and a deep crown. Cowboys valued its practicality, able to shield them from the sun, rain, and wind, and in a pinch, the hat could even serve as a water bucket for their horses. No. 12 The crash at Crush. In 1894, a railroad promoter named William Crush arranged a spectacle to promote the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad. He set up a temporary town, fittingly named Crush, and planned an explosive event. Steam locomotives would crash head-on in front of thousands of spectators. Despite the excitement, tragedy struck. The powerful explosion from the collision killed 2 people and injured many others. Despite the deadly outcome, the event was a success, attracting a massive crowd of 40,000, briefly turning the makeshift town into Texas' second largest city. The spectacle became known as the infamous crash at Crush No. 11. The Civil War out west. Not all battles of the Civil War took place in the East. In 1862, Confederate General Henry Hopkins Sibley aimed to seize gold from Colorado to fund the South's war effort. He believed the task would be easy, but the Union had other plans. The 1st Regiment of Volunteers from Colorado marched 400 miles south to stop Sibley's advance, near Santa Fe in a 2-day fight, known as the Gettysburg of the West Union forces. Possibly aided by local ranchers familiar with the terrain, outmaneuvered the Confederates and destroyed their supply train. This forced Sibley's retreat, securing the West for the Union and putting an end to Confederate ambitions in the region. No. 10 Chewing tobacco was commonplace. Chewing tobacco was a widespread habit back in the days of the frontier, and it wasn't just for fun. When folks worked out in the scorching sun and dusty plains chewing, tobacco helped keep their mouths from drying out. The extra saliva was a relief in those harsh conditions. In the 1800s, when chewing tobacco was all the rage, spittoons were a common sight in saloons, but you'd also find them in places like general stores and even banks. These were the containers where people spat out their used tobacco. It wasn't the most pleasant thing to look at, but it was just part of the everyday scene, as normal as seeing a mug of ale on the bar. The spatulas, made from metal or ceramic, sometimes even had fancy designs on them. It was the way things were done back then, and nobody thought twice about it. No toilet paper, believe it or not. Toilet paper didn't really catch on until the mid-1800s. Before then, most folks were using outhouses, little shacks with a hole dug into the ground. If you've ever used an outdoor latrine at a festival or camped in the wood, you can imagine how unpleasant that was. The smell, the bugs, it wasn't pretty. These communal outhouses were unsanitary and infested with insects, making them a breeding ground for all sorts of germs. What's more, before toilet paper became widely available, people had to make do with whatever they could find, like leaves, grass, or even corn cobs to clean up. Not exactly comfortable. It wasn't until toilet paper was introduced in the mid-19th century that things started to improve. No. 8. The Carnival of Elmer McCurdy. Elmer McCurdy's tale is as strange as it is tragic. In 1911, at just 31 years old, McCurdy attempted to rob a train in Oklahoma. Convicted. It was Unfortunately for him, the haul turned out to be a mere $46, and he was killed in a shootout with the law. But his story didn't end there. The sheriff sold Elmer's body to a carnival owner, who mummified it and put it on display. People paid to see the infamous outlaw, who couldn't be caught alive. His body was eventually passed around to various attractions, from a wax museum to an amusement park funhouse. Decades later, in 1976, a TV crew filming The $6 Million Man found Elmer's body, and it was in such bad shape that his arm even fell off. Finally, in 1977, someone gave Elmer a proper burial in Guthrie, Oklahoma, over 6 decades after his death. Quite the posthumous journey. No. 7 Photographs of dead outlaws. When notorious outlaws met their end, people craved proof. Newspapers loved to exaggerate their exploits, so when the law finally caught up with these criminals, townsfolk wanted to see the evidence. As photography emerged in the early 1800s, it wasn't just enough to hear stories anymore. Dead outlaws were often photographed, sometimes posed together or by themselves, in a macabre fashion. These grim photos were taken as a warning to anyone thinking about following in the outlaw's footsteps. Authorities wanted to make it clear that crime didn't pay, and these photos served as a stark reminder of the consequences of living outside the law. No. 6. The Town of Widows. The town of Delamar, Nevada, earned the grim nickname the Widow. And for good reason. Life in the Wild West was already perilous, with dangers ranging from outlaws to disease. But in Delamar, it was the mine that proved deadliest. Situated near Monkey Wrench Gulch, a mine's operation released harmful silicon dust into the air, which was inhaled by the miners. This toxic dust led to severe lung problems, and many of the men working in the mines died young, leaving behind grieving wives. At one point, Delamar's population of around 500 included over 400 widows, earning the town its ominous title. No. 5. The Buffalo Slaughter. Once the plains were home to millions of bison, a vital resource for Native American tribes who relied on them for food and clothing. But by the 1900s, their numbers had dwindled to less than 1,000. What happened? In a deliberate attempt to undermine Native American resistance, the U.S. Army, alongside hired hunters, embarked on a campaign to eradicate the bison population. One colonel famously stated, "Kill every buffalo you can. Every buffalo dead is an Indian gone." The slaughter was so intense that even figures like Buffalo Bill Cody contributed, with Cody personally killing 4,000 bison in 2 years. By 1889, only 256 bison remained. However, conservation efforts have since helped their numbers rebound, and today, between 15,000 and 200,000 bison roam the plains. A far cry from their original population, but a significant recovery nonetheless. No, for the extreme violence of the West. The Old West wasn't all showdowns and shootouts, but it wasn't a peaceful place either. Dodge City, Kansas, for instance, was notorious for its violence. In the late 1800s, Dodge City had an alarmingly high murder rate, with around 165 adults killed per 100,000 residents each year. To put that in perspective, if you lived there between 1876 and 1885, you had a 1 in 61 chance of being murdered. Even by today's standards, that's shockingly higher, in fact, than Los Cabos, Mexico, which in 2020 held the title of the most violent city in the world. Life in the Wild West was truly hazardous, even if it didn't always play out like the gunfights we see in movies. No. 3. The bland frontier diet. While life in the Old West sounds exciting, the food wasn't anything to write home about. Breakfast might include cornbread, fried potatoes, or boiled eggs, but dinner was often far less appetizing. Imagine a plate of boiled mutton or cave-aged cheese, followed by a dessert of pudding. Cowboys on the trail had it even rougher, living off canned beans, tough biscuits, dried meat, and coffee. Cooking was simple, done with basic frying pans and spit roasting, and the meals reflected what was available at the time. If you're interested in sampling some old-fashioned Western food, though, you can visit places like the Buckhorn Saloon and Museum in San Antonio, Texas, where history meets a better menu. No. 2. Infamous outlaw John Wesley Hardin, one of the most feared outlaws from Texas, was already stirring up trouble before most kids his age even thought about it. At just 14, he made his first attempt to kill someone with a knife, and by 15 he had already gunned down his uncle's slave and 3 soldiers who came to arrest him. In his own account, Hardin boasted that he had taken the lives of 44 men. Though many of these claims are hard to verify and likely exaggerated, that said, it's widely believed that he killed between 15 to 30 people over the course of his violent life. Hardin's story was a string of bloody run-ins, one after the other. While staying in Abilene, Kansas, he crossed paths with none other than Wild Bill Hickok, the town marshal. Despite the reputations, they got along. Maybe Hickok wasn't aware of Hardin's long trail of murder in Texas, or perhaps he just didn't care. But Hardin's ruthless nature surfaced once again on August 6, 1871. Annoyed by the loud snoring of the man next door in his hotel, Hardin shot through the wall, killing him on the spot. It wasn't long before folks started saying that Hardin was so cruel he'd kill a man just for snoring. After that, Hardin skipped town, slipping through the grasp of Hickok and lawmen until 1875. He was eventually captured and put on trial for the killing of a well-liked sheriff in Comanche, Texas, when he was only 21. Sentenced to 25 years behind bars, Hardin managed to serve just 17 before being pardoned. In 1894, his luck didn't last long, though. The following year, after a heated argument, a man shot Hardin in the back of the head while he was playing dice. To make sure the deed was done, he fired a few more shots into Hardin's lifeless body. No. 1. A family of killers. When thinking of the Wild West, images of cowboys and outlaws usually come to mind, but there were other dangerous folks out there, like the infamous Bender family, a group of serial killers. This unsettling family of German immigrants settled down in Leavenworth County, Kansas from 1871 to 1872, where they ran a peculiar operation, a mix of a general store and a small inn. For passing travelers, they had a barn, a corral, and a well on their property. But their true business was much more sinister. known as the Bloody Benders. The family was not well liked. People thought cold, strange, and downright menacing. The family consisted of John Bender Sr., his wife Elvira, their son John Jr., and his supposed girlfriend Kate, who may have actually been his sister. What the Benders were really up to would shock the entire community. Over the course of their short time in Kansas, the Benders are believed to have murdered at least 11 people, burying their bodies in the orchard behind their home. Their victims were mostly travelers who stayed at the inn, unaware of the danger lurking within. The family would kill their guests and take their money and possessions. It wasn't until a doctor went missing that the town grew suspicious. A search party found the doctor's horse, still tied up outside the Benders' inn, but the family had vanished without a trace. As the stories of missing people circulated, and the truth started to come to light, the Bender family disappeared, leaving behind a trail of bodies and unanswered questions to this day. No one knows exactly why they did what they did, or how they got away with it for as long as they did. That wraps up our deep dive into the eerie tales of the Wild West. We've peeled back the layers of history to reveal some unsettling truths, and we hope you enjoyed the journey. If you learned something new or have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep exploring the untold stories of the past.